exits are located in the back, up here in the front, and the windows push together and push out. Additionally, we have a life ring, a life sling, and a man overboard crane. So if anyone wants to take a dip today, we got you covered. 4 people can be out on the bow at one time, but we have to make sure that we are not at the dock, so we're not leaving the dock or entering the dock. We're in the middle of the lake, we're able to be out on the bow. Any questions? Cool, we'll get started. Glacier for the very first time. Awesome. That's a good number of you guys. Well, welcome. We are so excited to spend part of your morning together. Is anybody staying over here in the Mini Glacier Hotel? Only a couple of you. Okay. Well, this is the historic Mini Glacier Hotel. It was built by Louis Hill, the president of the Great Northern Railway. He came here in 1909, before this was even a national park, took one look at the mountains you're seeing today, and decided he wanted to build a masterpiece here. So he and a group of about 400 men built this hotel in less than a year, actually, which is pretty amazing. They had to take a month-long break in January because temperatures plummeted below negative 30 degrees. So I doubt many of you have had to work in conditions like that. But prior to this hotel existing here, visitors would come and they would visit this park. They would come on the train and then they would hop on horseback and ride horses through a series of chalets. And a lot of those chalets have been lost due to avalanche or fire activity. But here in this valley, we have 2 remaining, and those 2 brown buildings out to your right are the 2 chalets that are left here. And in the left one, Justin and Marva are 2 winter caretakers, actually, will live year-round, believe it or not. So when we all head out of the valley and it starts getting cold and snowy, Justin and Marva will stay. They'll be the only human inhabitants here, and they'll look after our hotel. There's actually a documentary made about them. You might have heard of it. It's called The Shining. Okay, thanks for the pretty laughs. Just kidding, but Justin and Marva do have some company here in the winter, because over to your right on this side of Mount Alton, the big horned sheep will winter. So this is Mount Alton right here, and the west winds will blow in and blow up that snow and ice so that the vegetation is exposed, and the big horned sheep can eat up there during those severe months. Once it starts getting a little bit warmer, they'll actually meander down over their natural migratory path over the hotel bridge that you guys all came across this morning or yesterday. And they'll look up some of your car antifreeze, and then they'll head up into Mount Allen, where there's colder temperatures for the summer months and they can stay away from tourist activity. Over to your right is our Swiftcurrent Valley, and that peak on the right is called Heavy Shield by the Blackfeet Nation. It's also known as Mount Wilbur, after the president of Abercrombie and Finch. Long story there. But anyways, if you drop down to the right, you're looking at my personal favorite of our features here in the valley, and that is called the Iceberg Ptarmigan Wall. And that is my favorite because it's quite spectacular. It was formed when two glaciers pushed up over lots and lots of years on either side of that wall. We're kind of carving it out, and that wall is so thin that there are actually spots that you can see right through. There are holes in that wall, and while it might look like a needle eye from here, if you get to see that, it is actually big enough that if this boat could sprout wings, it could fly right through that hole. So I've seen some sunsets with it being backlit, and you can see the orange golden light coming through that wall. It's pretty amazing. Alright, that pyramidal point over on the left, a bit lower down, is called Swiftcurrent Peak. And there's actually a little tiny building up there. You can see it if you have good eyesight or binoculars. Can you guys see that little building? That's Glacier Park's first Starbucks. No, I'm just kidding. You guys need some more coffee. You guys need to wake up. Okay, that is actually a fire lookout, which was built in 1937.
The whole, you see
in
the one single
1936,
in the valley?
we had a huge fire blow all the way through the valley up to the shores of this lake, actually. And that fire was responsible for taking out 6 chalets located on Mount Alton, as well as a science building that had just recently been constructed by the park. So it was a pretty devastating event for this valley. However, we did have some really, really brave hotel employees who decided to stay back despite all of our tourists being evacuated out in those red jammers you've seen around the park. And our employees used the water from this lake to form bucket brigades, also wetted down bed sheets, and they put those out on the balconies, and they fought off the embers and the sparks and saved our hotel. And thanks to their efforts, we get to continue to enjoy that building today. So we're really grateful for that. These really cute little ducks that some of you are noticing right now over here, called the common mergansers. And they are fish-eating ducks, actually, which are pretty cool, and you can kind of see them running across the water. They're funny little guys. The brush that you're seeing mostly over on this shore of our lake is mostly willow and alder. It's actually a perfect little spot for our moose because they can hide their calves away from the bears in this thick brush. And then they also eat this willow and alder, and they also feed on the vegetation on the shelves of our lakes here. So you might find it surprising, as I did. Moose can actually dive 15 to 20 feet underwater to feed on aquatic vegetation. And they have these really awesome eyelids that they can see underwater. They're waterproof and transparent, so they can see what they're munching on. So oftentimes you'll see them with their heads underwater just feeding. Over to your right, you are seeing the second greatest lodge here on the lake. Bit of a different architectural design. That pile of sticks and brush, which is a little bit hidden over there on the right, that's our resident beaver lodge. It has existed here for over 50 years. We've had a ranger here for 53 seasons, and he's recorded beaver activity for the entirety of his time. Beavers are pretty amazing little creatures. They're crepuscular, so they are active most in the morning time and the evening. And we've been seeing some beaver activity, so definitely keep your eyes out for them
Did she say we could go up there?
later today or this morning.
Yeah.
Alright, we are now transitioning away from the Swiftcurrent Valley into the Grinnell Valley. The point that Rachel is about to point the bow at is Mount Gould, straight ahead. This is our highest peak in the valley, and it's over 9,500 feet actually, which is pretty amazing. If you drop down to that rounded mountain in the front, that is Angel Wing, and tucked right up behind it to the right is Glacier. that kind of snow patch behind the rounded mountain. It's actually no longer technically considered a glacier because it doesn't meet the size requirements, but just for reference, that's where it's located. The last thing I kind of wanted to point out to you guys as we're finishing up this part of our tour is this tree line that we're approaching. And you might notice that the trees kind of come down in a V where the dock is. Do you guys see that straight ahead? If you look closely, you'll notice a pretty significant difference in our tree lines. So over on the left, you see a lot more variation in color and size and shape, whereas on the right, it's a lot more uniform. And that's because what you're looking at is an old growth forest on the left. That is mostly composed of Engelmann spruce and subalpine fir. These are very old trees. We're seeing some natural deaths and different time periods of when those trees are growing. Whereas on the right, you're seeing the evidence of that fire I talked about earlier, Heaven's Peak fire, which blew all the way down to this point before the wind changed and blew back on itself. And what we have here is mostly a lodgepole pine forest. Lodgepole pines are a fire-dependent species. They have what we call a serotinous cone. So these cones are encapsulated in this waxy resin that under extreme heat will melt to expose the seeds of those cones. And then those cones will kind of pop like a popcorn kernel, and we get these huge groves of younger lodgepole pines. Eventually those will be shaded out by our spruce and firs, but that's what you're seeing right now. So kind of interesting to think about as you guys head up over the hill and head to the next location. So as we are pulling in here, we are going to get ready to disembark, and then we are going to head over the hill, about 0.2 miles, and then we are going to continue the tour on the next lake. So we are headed into bear country. However, there's been no recorded bear attacks on groups over 4, so our numbers are looking really good for us this morning. And then we will continue on our journey. So we're going to let Rachel dock, and then we'll go from there. You guys are good to depart. I'll be following behind and meet you over there on the Morning Eagle.
Hola. What's up? Hi, Mom.
This is strenuously, just to give you an idea.
She gone.